Hey everyone, this is TDLM bringing you the first hero tier list from Deadlock's latest patch from December 6th. I'm going to be breaking down this video into 3 parts, and we'll be omitting Initiate and Eternus ranks since they make up less than 1% of the population. So there will be 9 ranks total divided into 3 parts. First, I'll go through the low elo to discuss character changes this meta and then rank accordingly. Then I'll show you tier list changes for each rank set. I've left timestamps in the description if you want to skip to the one applicable to you. First off is Abrams. This character has never really been weak at any rank, and after the latest patch this is still true. They nerfed his gun damage slightly and made his first ability stronger, making Spirit Abrams more viable. He's also extremely easy to play, making him great at lower elo, and his win rate is 51.8% averaged at these ranks. He'll be going into A tier. Next, we have Bebop. There are very few characters who have experienced more drastic changes since the game became public, and they just can't seem to figure out what to do with this character. This patch they nerfed his CC time while uppercutting, made quality of life changes while hooking, and improved his melee damage. His nerfed CC time definitely makes gun Bebop worse. His bomb Bebop is already bad because you need to have a lot of stacks to make it work, and so I believe tank Bebop with improved melee damage is the only reasonable build right now. However, we are talking about low elo, where it is easy to land bomb stacks, land hooks, and shred people with their bad movement. He's also averaging 51.8% win rate at these ranks. This character is going into A tier. Up next, we have Dynamo. It's no surprise that this character, with the best ultimate in the game, got hit this patch with a much longer ult cooldown. He's seen as a must pick in higher elo, however this character has a very low win rate at low elo. This is likely due to a lack of team coordination with his ultimate, and lower skilled players probably don't save teammates with his quantum entanglement as much as they should. Sitting at a diminished 47.47 win rate, I would put him in D tier purely based off stats. However, I do think his ult is still the best in the game, so he's going into C tier. I think Great Talon had his peak moment in October, November when he was dashing in the air spraying his second ability. Besides that, his character has been garbage. They upgraded his third ability to now apply Curse once triggered, and activating the ability early by shooting a charge shot into the center. This still doesn't change the fact that he's a very high skill ceiling, and low elo players can't land their shots or abilities on this character. At these ranks, he has the worst win rate at 40.92%. Unsurprisingly, he's going into D tier. If any of you watched one of my previous videos, you would know that Haze has had the best pick rate since she was buffed. Before this patch, I would have said she's the best carry in the game in terms of consistency. In this patch, her Smoke Bomb, Fixation, and Bullet Dance received some nerfs, and now people can move slightly while sleep daggered. Even after these nerfs, she remains to be one of the best late game threats, and at low elo she can abuse her ultimate. Her win rate is very high at 53.6%. She is our first S tier character. I just mentioned that I had Haze as the best carry prior to this patch, however Infernus may take that spot. Infernus received arguably the biggest buff this patch. He can now have multiple flame dashes at tier 3 and improved afterburn spirit scaling. Some pros believe that we're in a sustained meta where teamfights last longer because heal and anti-heal was nerfed last patch, and this patch many cooldowns have increased. For this reason, Infernus fits this meta perfectly for his Spirit Lifesteal and Infinite Flame Dash with Rapid Recharge. However, low elo players likely don't exploit this optimal build effectively, and I think it will take some time for the community to learn this new Infernus playstyle. He's averaging a 48.8 win rate, and he'll be our first B tier hero. In a previous video, I mentioned that Ivy was the best pick in the game due to her versatility, team coordination, and ability to deliver the urn. This patch, all heroes have a static 13 meter per second run speed with the urn, including Ivy's airdrop. Her melee damage, starting health, and airdrop damage all received slight nerfs as well. I don't think these changes are enough to keep Ivy from top tier. However, at low elo, players don't know how to optimize her potential with team coordination. Her win rate is 45.84% at these ranks, and for those reasons listed, she's going into B tier. Elvin has been at the bottom of the barrel for all tiers other than the highest level of gameplay, and this patch has kept that narrative consistent. All of his abilities require a high degree of coordination to optimize, and he's best played as a support at high elo. This patch he received a small buff to his Frost Grenade, and his ultimate received a quality of life change and a rebalancing of his cooldown. Unsurprisingly, his win rate is still one of the worst in the game at low elo at 43.67%. He's definitely going into D tier. Next up, we have Lady Geist, one of my personal favorite heroes to play right now. Lady Geist's Malice can now secure orbs, her ult now silences in a 15-meter radius for 3 seconds rather than providing fire rate and spirit resist, her life drain lasts longer, and now charges rather than silences. These charges are especially impactful buffs due to her overall kit, especially since sustain is huge this meta. She should be played more like a tank now, however it's easy to get value with her in low elo as a tank or raw spirit damage. Healbane can now build into Leech, and Mystic Reverb also received buffs, which are both insane items on her. Her win rate is one of the highest at these ranks at 52.15%, she'll be going into S tier. Lash is an interesting one because he was already strong in lane and his ult placed everyone into highlight reels consistently. Prior to this patch, he was sitting towards the middle and was never really a bad pick to have on the team. In this patch, he received a lower cooldown on tier 1 ground strike, and his ult received an overall buff to its channel, impact radius, range, and most importantly, now stuns for 1 second at tier 3. There aren't many pure stuns by definition in Deadlock, and having an AoE stun for 1 second while throwing multiple heroes into the same area is insane. Lash does require decent movement to be optimal, however even at low elo his win rate is very high at 52.39%, he's going into A tier. One thing that has never really changed with McGinnis is that if you see her in any lane next to one of your towers, that tower disappears. Unfortunately, this is one of the only things she does well. There are better carries than her, better tanks than her, and definitely better spirit heroes than her. In this patch, her turrets are easier to kill and have reduced fire rate. I'm personally happy about this change because her previous patch turrets were so broken and impossible to kill. However, besides her ability to push, this character falls short, sitting at 46.99% win rate at low elo. I'm going to put her in C tier simply due to the fact that she is easier to play than most heroes. In my previous video, Moen Krill was the top 5 pick overall, and he's still a top tier pick. He's a great laner, impossible to kill, and some of the best CC in the game with his disarm and ult. The only significant change to him this patch was that his scorn is now an instant heal rather than over 1 second. I personally don't even think this buff was necessary as he was already hard to kill in lane and even harder late game. He's averaging a high 53% win rate at low elo, and it isn't hard to survive with him even at this rank. For those reasons, he belongs in S tier. Probably the best ganker in the game, we have Paradox. She received some slight nerfs this patch, however I don't think the changes are significant enough to remove her ganking title. She has consistently had one of the worst performances at low elo, and this shouldn't come as a surprise. She's a highly mobile, gank heavy, and hard to hit skill shot character. There's a reason why she's one of the most banned characters in tournaments and hardly picked at lower elo. Her character's win rate is directly proportional to rank. At low elo, her win rate is only 47.55%, she's gonna go into C tier. On the theme of polarized characters, we have Pocket. This character is synonymous with Paradox. He's easily one of the most banned and feared characters at the highest level of the game, and one of the least picked and useless characters at the lowest level. He's heavily movement and skill dependent, making him an unideal pick at low elo. In this patch, he gains less health, has his satchel timings reworked, a slower cloak, and does much less damage with his ultimate overall. He's a very low 46.8% win rate at these ranks, so he's going into C tier. Everybody's favorite little goo ball, Viscous. This guy is arguably the most polarized character in the game. His pick rate and win rates are low at low elo, but he's a priority pick at pro level gameplay. In this patch, his cube has a shorter cooldown but shorter range. His puddle punch is easier to hit and turns into a heavy melee at tier 3, but it has a reduced slow. His goo ball's overall damage received significant nerfs as well. I was surprised to see these changes because his cube is what makes him so strong at high levels of gameplay, so I think that should have been one of the only things to get nerfed. From the prior patch, you can now parry the puddle punch, so I didn't think it needed any nerfs. The ultimate damage kinda makes sense, but the spirit scaling is questionable because you would be picking a spirit build over a support build, so it shouldn't be punished that much. He requires good utility usage and team awareness, so his win rate is fairly low at 47.15%. He's going into C tier. One of my personal favorites to play is 7. 7 has been a low elo favorite for many players for a long time. He's relatively easy to play and his AoE abilities grant him team value in almost all situations. Ever since the jungle got nerfed in early November, 7 fell off slightly as his flash farming potential wasn't as beneficial. However, now Surge of Power and Mystic Slow received buffs, both of which are great for this character. This patch, his ultimate allows a lightning strike, which lets you push out enemies who are hiding from you, and most importantly, you can now move during the ultimate. The less DPS is negligible compared to the buffs he's received. Especially in low elo, where players love eating that ultimate and have terrible movement, this hero's win rate is 50.7%, putting him in A tier. When it comes to long-range mastery, I think it's safe to say that Vindicta is the favorite pick over Great Talon, and the win rates agree. This patch, Vindicta received several nerfs and buffs, but I think the biggest change was to her overall ult damage and charge rate. If you want a hero that has raw DPS with their kit, then Vindicta is probably one of the best. She did get indirectly nerfed since Knockdown received a substantial buff against flying targets, and it is her main counter. However, this hasn't affected her win rate at low elo. She does require great tracking and positioning, but landing a few assassinates might be enough to take over the game due to the soul advantage. Her average win rate at these ranks is 50.03%, so she'll go into B tier. In my top 5 video, Warden had one of the highest win rates consistently amongst all ranks, and this has not changed since this patch came out. He's a solid all-around pick that provides frontlining, gun damage, spirit damage, and lockdown. This patch, he received a nerf to his fire rate and less resistance during his ult until he unlocks tier 3. It's important to note that his ult now has a very small cooldown if it gets interrupted during her channel, and gains a longer duration at tier 3. He's also fairly easy to play, making him ideal for low elo, and this is illustrated through the highest win rate at these ranks of 56.56%. He's going to the top of S tier. Wraith has recently sat in the middle of the pack because there have been other carries recently such as Yamato, Haze, and now Infernus who have been overtuned. In this patch, she received some considerable buffs in her bullet damage, full auto spirit scaling, full auto lifesteal, and her ultimate. The change to her ultimate made her more skill based than before since you can't just aim for a floating head until they're dead. Now you actually have to chase your opponents while they're silenced and disarmed. Her win rate at these ranks has stayed the same at 48.48%, and she still belongs in B tier. Yamato is very similar to Wraith in the sense that they're consistent carries that aren't terrible or the best right now. If you want a mid-range DPS, you could take Wraith. If you want a semi-carry tank, you can go Yamato. The slight buffs Yamato received to her Flying Strike and Shadow Transformation have increased her win rate slightly, but she's remained in the middle of the pack at this elo at 48.67%. I do believe the frontlining capabilities of Yamato does put her a step above Wraith in the sustained meta, however, she's still going to go into B tier. Viv is the only hero who didn't receive any changes this patch. He began as one of the most broken heroes in the history of this game, now to being an afterthought. The main problem that he has right now is that the other frontliners are just better. Abrams and Mo and Krill both provide more CC to a team fight while being easier to play. That being said, he's good enough to not be at the bottom of the barrel. His win rate in low elo is 49.53%, placing him near the middle of the pack. Lastly, we have Mirage, who's arguably the best split pusher in the game. He's the only character who can defend or aggress lanes away from his team and then show up at a team fight when necessary. This patch, his fire scarabs now drain health over 4 seconds instead of instantly healing, and no longer restricts you from hitting the same target with the scarab. His scarab launch window time was also increased. His ultimate, Traveler, now allows you to use your surroundings to your advantage and applies Traveler benefits to the ally you teleport to. His ultimate received a substantial cooldown nerf. However, most characters received cooldown nerfs, and his is one of the more impactful ones, so I don't think it matters too much. He's a solid pick in any team composition and has a steady win rate. He does require good aim to maximize his Jin's mark and to launch Scarab, so he's sitting in the middle of the pack as well. His win rate at low elo is 49.59%. That's it for the low elo tier list. Make sure to stick around for the mid and high elo tier list that I'll be showcasing. You can skip ahead if you want, as there won't be commentary on the shifts, but they will be based on win percentage and overall value at each rank. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. I would greatly appreciate if you could like and subscribe so I can keep putting out content like this for all of you.